Avatar the Last Airbender, to me, is one of the most perfect television series to have ever come out. Between the characters, structure, world building, and themes, it's pretty hard to beat. But today I want to go back to the start and look at its beginning. Spoiler alert, it's crafted just as brilliantly as the rest of the series. Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, and today I want to talk about what writers can learn from the first episode of Avatar the Last Airbender. I've been wanting to rewatch this series for the 5th time for a while now, and I also wanted to do a video on it. So I started rewatching the first episode of the series, and I couldn't believe how well they handled exposition and character introductions. So that is what I'm going to focus on today in this analysis. I am going to be breaking down the episode in detail, so just be aware that there are going to be massive spoilers for the entire first episode. So it starts out with a bit of an info dump, but it's fairly short and concise, lasting only 1 minute and 12 seconds, and is aided by some nice visuals. Katara, one of our protagonists via voiceover monologue, tells us that there are 4 nations of benders, each being able to manipulate a single element, so water, earth, fire, and air, and that the 4 nations lived in peace until the firebenders attacked, starting a war that has been going on for 100 years. The Fire Nation is near victory because the Avatar, who is the only person capable of mastering all 4 elements, has vanished before the Fire Nation attacked, and no one has seen him since. She and her brother have looked after their village since the men left 2 years ago to fight with the Earthbenders. Now, I'm not a fan of info dumps, but this was concise, they got it over quickly, and it facilitates the brilliant character introductions and exposition that follows. Now, I would even argue that it's not necessary, but I think that it was very intelligent of them to include it, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So first off, we meet Sokka and Katara. Instantly, through their dialogue and actions, we get a sense of their characters and their dynamic. Sokka is arrogant and sarcastic. He's putting on a bravado and tries to put Katara, a woman, in her place to assert dominance. We will talk more about this later though. Katara is more mature and can hold her own. It also sets up that Katara is a bender and Sokka is not. It's worth noting that this is never said outright, but because of Sokka's distaste for Katara's magic water, it's implied. Then, some currents steer their boat into an iceberg, crushing it. They blame each other and Katara, fed up, flips out, which causes a massive iceberg behind her to start cracking apart. Here, we see that Katara is frustrated with the amount of work that she has to do, and that it largely goes unappreciated. We also see that she is still a kid, and they sneak in that the kid's mother has died. The iceberg breaks, showing us that Katara is not fully in control of her bending. This leads to a massive glowing ball of ice emerging from the water, and we can see a boy and something else trapped inside it. Katara sees that the boy is alive and immediately runs to his aid, hacking at the ice until it breaks. Sokka, despite a lot of talk and bravado, is more cautious, saying that they don't know who or what it is. So already we've learned a lot about the main characters, and we're only 5.5 minutes in. Almost all of this we take in subconsciously though, because it's not fed to us through dialogue and is instead implied or shown through action. This, in addition to the humor, helps to keep it interesting. If Katara were to instead just ponder her bending, or perhaps the fact that she does a lot of work and it goes unappreciated, then it would not be as interesting. And on top of that, we would have lost out on character interactions that are both comedic and set up their relationship and dynamic. If this is done through implication and action, it doesn't feel like we're being fed a ton of information, and they're able to characterize not just one, but both characters. It feels natural, and they're able to cram a lot of information into just the one scene because they're able to do multiple things at once. In addition to all of the characterization that happens, they're also able to set up the tone of the show through humor and action. Not only that, but the inciting incident is created directly by the actions of the characters. This trend of doing more than one thing at once continues throughout the rest of the episode. So following that, we see a light emanating from the iceberg, which transitions to Zuko and Iroh on an intimidating looking boat. Zuko, via music, costume, and demeanor, is instantly identifiable as an antagonist, and this is without him saying a word. After only a few seconds of dialogue, we come to understand a lot about these characters and their relationships too. Zuko is caught up in his obsession, and Iroh, having been down this path before, tries to manage his expectations. It's only at the end of their conversation that Zuko's intentions are confirmed. He is after the Avatar. By not saying this outright and instead planting clues, it creates intrigue. We as an audience immediately try to figure out what is happening. We have the knowledge of the war and disappearance of the Avatar, plus the visual and audio cues that imply they are antagonists, plus the vague dialogue about how Zuko's search is coming to an end. Our mind fills in the blanks and we guess that he is searching for the Avatar, so when this reveals to be true, the audience feels rewarded and then therefore becomes invested. Next, we see Katara and Sokka as the boy stumbles out of the ice and falls into Katara's arms. This is where we get Aang's character introduction. He looks up and instantly, through facial expression, music, and framing, we understand that Aang thinks Katara is beautiful, setting up his crush on her. The first line of dialogue that he says is, "I need to ask you something," in a serious tone. But this is followed by, "Do you want to go penguin sledding with me?" This toys with the audience's expectations, surprising us, and sets up that he doesn't take very much seriously. The other thing that this show does extremely well is repeating important information, and it does so without feeling forced. Repetition of information is important so that it sticks with us. So that means that it is especially important for exposition in storytelling. We want the reader or audience to get to know the world, and the creators of Avatar recognize this, but they don't want to force this information into us. They realized which bits of information were key and planted those multiple times throughout the episode, but in different ways so that it didn't feel repetitive. If they hide it, it makes the absorption of that information a lot more subconscious. Here is an example. In the beginning monologue, we are told that the Avatar vanished 100 years ago. Iroh, later in the episode, while talking to Zuko, says, "Your father, grandfather, great-grandfather all tried and failed to capture the Avatar." The monologue off the top has way too much information for us to remember all of it, especially on a first-time viewing, but this is an integral part of the story, so by working it naturally into Iroh's dialogue, it is then a reminder of how long the Avatar has been missing. So now that some of the characters and relationships have been established, we move on to deeper things such as character motivation. And these, of course, are also not stated outright, but are implied. Zuko, for example, responds to Iroh that his honor depends on finding the Avatar, which is why everyone before him has failed. This gives us insight into how highly Zuko values his honor, and it implies a further backstory. Later in the episode, Aang tells Katara and Sokka that he is an air nomad. Katara asks if he knows the Avatar, and at this point from clues, we've pretty much figured out that he is obviously the Avatar, but he lies to Katara. Our suspicions are confirmed off his guilty look, but because he lies about it, we understand that he's not comfortable with being the Avatar. We also get insight into why the characters are how they are. Sokka is the only man left in his village, which is, again, a repeat of information, and this explains why he's so obsessed with being a man and being in control, and often that manifests in a brave bravado or trying to assert himself by putting others down. At the end of the episode, through Aang's childish actions, he leads the Fire Nation directly to himself and also to the Water Tribe. Now the stakes and conflict are set up for the next episode. All of the information that we now have, and much more that I didn't touch on because of time constraints, has been communicated to us in a 23-minute episode. That is extremely impressive. We have a sense of the world, character, plot, and conflict, and it didn't feel dull. By trusting the audience to pick up on exposition and character through action and implication means that they're able to layer things into a scene, creating a scene that has multiple purposes. It also allows the scenes to remain interesting. There are a few moments of surprise by toying with the audience's expectations, which draws the viewer in, and on top of that, the audience is being rewarded and engaged by being given clues and then being rewarded when those clues are confirmed. Humor and action also help to keep it interesting. So there you have it. Now, do I think this is a perfect episode, or do I think that it's the best episode of Avatar? Obviously not. But I think that there's a lot that writers can learn from it because it does its exposition so well. It's a child's show, but they have a ton of world building and character to fit into it. So it has to keep the audience's attention span, which, you know, as children we don't have a lot of, while cramming all of this in, and it does it extremely well. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below. I might do more videos on Avatar, so please let me know if you'd like to see more of that. But that is pretty much it. I have a Twitter account now, so be sure to follow that. The link is in the description, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I think that's everything, so thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.